Oh man, we got some more developments in the Brett Kavanaugh, Christine Blasey Ford thing. In her testimony, she was asked if she'd ever given tips, advice in any way, for any reason, to somebody on how to take a polygraph test. Ford said that she did not. There's a couple other things she testified to, but apparently now, an ex-boyfriend claimed in a sworn statement he witnessed her giving someone advice on how to take a polygraph. This is important for two reasons. The first, someone's lying. Either this person who wrote a sworn statement, her ex-boyfriend, or Christine Blasey Ford is lying. I'm not going to say I believe one or the other is lying. The point is, someone is. The second thing is, if the letter is true, that Ford was giving someone advice on how to take a polygraph test, then it throws her polygraph into question because she is prepared for it. A lot of people believe that because of her expertise in a particular field, that she would know how polygraphs work. I don't want to play that game. I just want to say that we've got a conundrum here. But first, let's read some of this story, and then I've got some data from YouGov, which is interesting. Daily Intelligencer. Ford's testimony questioned after ex says she helped a friend prep for a polygraph, which is interesting. In a letter to Senate Judiciary Committee, an ex-boyfriend of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford says she once helped a friend prepare for a potential polygraph exam, leading committee chairman Charles Grassley to question whether the woman who has accused Brett Kavanaugh of teenage sexual assault was truthful during Senate testimony last week. The sworn statement, which was obtained by Fox News, was written by an unnamed man who says he dated Ford from 92 to 98. He writes that he found her truthful during their relationship and says he has no ill will toward her. This is particularly interesting. In the letter, the ex-boyfriend says Ford once helped ease the nerves of a friend who was preparing for a polygraph. Ford, the letter says, explained in detail what to expect, how polygraphs worked, and helped her friend become familiar and less nervous about the exam. In his own letter to Ford's lawyers Tuesday night, Grassley wrote that the ex-boyfriend's claim raises specific concerns about the reliability of her polygraph examination results. He also pointed out the conflict between the ex-boyfriend's letter and Ford's testimony last Thursday. During the hearing, Arizona prosecutor Rachel Mitchell asked Ford if she'd ever had discussions with anyone outside of her lawyers about how to take a polygraph. Ford said she didn't. Mitchell got more specific. And I don't just mean countermeasures, but I mean just any sort of tips or anything like that. Ford again said no. Then Mitchell asked one more time, have you ever given tips or advice to somebody who was looking to take a polygraph test? Never, Ford said. I have to wonder why she got so specific with that line of questioning, because I'd have to imagine for a lot of people it's not that relevant. Polygraphs are inadmissible anyway. People don't believe them to be, entirely relevant. And many people on the left are simply saying it's just a sign of good faith on Ford's part that she was willing to do it, not that it proves anything. But when I hear she asked 3 times, got very specific, it sounds like maybe they had this letter from the boyfriend, they knew about it beforehand. Look, we're talking about a Supreme Court nomination. We're talking about the culture war. We're talking about the Republicans versus the Democrats. I have to imagine, as much as the Democrats had been preparing for this testimony and this hearing, the Republicans had preparing for just as long. As soon as people heard about the letter, I'm sure the Republicans started mounting a huge defense. So maybe they knew about this. As soon as they figured out who this woman was, look, Ford said reporters were going to her house. They knew who she was. I'd have to imagine the Republicans did too, because they're going to be putting money behind this. If that's the case, that they knew who she was, it's fair to believe, in my opinion, that the Republicans did a background check and found as many connections to her as possible, and maybe knew about this statement. Maybe someone said, oh yeah, she knows polygraphs, she's helped people out from before, and that's why they went with that line of questioning. All speculation, no fact. I'm just speculating here. It could be a coincidence. They were trying to maybe show Ford as being not credible because she had experience with polygraphs. They're trying to discredit the polygraph. Who knows? The point is, we now have a contradictory statement, which is bad for Ford, because we have to assume that her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, didn't lie in a sworn statement. But then, do we have to assume that Ford did lie? We can't. Who's not telling the truth here? In addition to the polygraph claim, the ex-boyfriend attempts to cast doubt on Ford's testimony by saying that she never brought up the alleged assault during their relationship. He also says she never seemed afraid of flying while they were together. The letter ends with the ex-boyfriend saying he does not want to become involved in this process. But what's interesting too is in the letter, he talks about, he says he was visiting Ford in Hawaii. They traveled around the Hawaiian Islands, including one time on a propeller plane. Dr. Ford never indicated a fear of flying. To the best of my recollection, Ford never expressed a fear of close quarters, tight spaces, or places with only one exit. He says, I assisted Dr. Ford in finding a place to live in California. She ended up living in a very small 500 square foot house with one door. Not only that, Some people have brought up, Ford mentioned having two front doors because she's so scared. But some people have mentioned that if you look, I don't know if this is true, this is just some scuttlebutt I heard on the internet, that she was actually renting out that property. And so the two front doors was actually create a separate entrance for someone else who was renting some space. Maybe, maybe not. I will say that the only thing I can look to that says to me, it really casts doubt on the credibility of Ford, is that she claimed to have been claustrophobic and had a fear of flying, but then testified that she flies regularly and very long distances, like to Hawaii, to Costa Rica, to French Polynesia, that she flies once a year to the mid-Atlantic from California. So if you're going to claim you're not coming to DC because you're scared of flying, but you fly all the time, sorry, I'm just going to I think you're lying, plain and simple. But check this out. This is great. From YouGov, deep polarization in reactions to Ford Kavanaugh hearings. More people believe Ford than Kavanaugh, but little movement in support for confirmation. On Thursday, much of America was riveted by testimony of Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Starting Thursday night and continuing through Friday evening, YouGov interviewed 2,607 Americans about whom they thought was telling the truth or lying. We found a country deeply divided in their reactions to the hearings. The largest group believed Ford was telling the truth and Kavanaugh was not. A smaller but still substantial group believed the opposite. Hardly anyone believed both were telling the truth. Where you came out depended mostly on where you came in. Women were more likely to think that Kavanaugh was lying. But for the most part, reactions followed partisan lines. So far, at least, there appears to be little net movement in support for Kavanaugh's confirmation. More people thought that Ford was telling the truth than did Brett Kavanaugh, 41%. Though Ford was definitely or probably telling the truth compared to 35% for Kavanaugh. So let's just look at the graph. It's probably easier. So telling the truth, 35% said Kavanaugh was, 41% said Ford was. Not telling the truth, 38% said Kavanaugh was lying. Not sure is 29 to 27. The partisan data. This is where it gets just so damn sad. So damn sad. They say, it is hard to believe that Democrats and Republicans were watching the same hearings. 73% of Democrats thought Ford was telling the truth compared to 14% of Republicans. 74% of Republicans thought Kavanaugh was telling the truth compared to only 11% of Democrats. Independents were in between. It's so predictable. This is why I hate politics. This is why I hate everybody. I don't actually hate everybody, but generally speaking, I think back to that Men in Black. Whoa. That's fantastic. I just got a presidential alert. I should have screenshotted that. It actually said presidential alert on my phone. How fantastic. I'm leaving this in. You can all watch it and get annoyed by the sound. Maybe I'll dampen the sound a little bit. Back to the point I was making. The Men in Black clip where Agent, I think K, says a person is smart but people are dumb. And I'm like, right. So you look at this. Democrats are going to side with Ford, Republicans are going to side with Kavanaugh, and independents are right in the middle because it is what it is. While President Trump and most Republicans said that they thought the testimony of both Ford and Kavanaugh to be very credible, this tendency to believe both the accuser and the accused were telling the truth was not shared by the public at large. Only 5% of survey respondents thought that both Ford and Kavanaugh were telling the truth. 33% thought Ford told the truth and Kavanaugh was lying. Well, we've been through all that. Now let's talk about men versus women. Telling the truth. Men. Most men believed that Ford was telling the truth. Wait, this is weird. Hold on. For Ford, 38% believed she was telling the truth, and 35% said she wasn't, and 27% were not sure. For Kavanaugh, 40% of men said he was telling the truth, 35% said he was not telling the truth. Women overwhelmingly believed that, now this is interesting, women overwhelmingly believed that Ford was telling the truth and that Kavanaugh was not telling the truth. This is actually almost, wow, look at that. Men were more likely to believe both of them were telling the truth. That's kind of my position, that I think Ford must be mistaken. It's plain and simple. I don't think she's doing all of this because she's a bad person or she's lying. I just think that she probably got it wrong. If her friends don't remember the party, if her best friend doesn't even know Kavanaugh, she must be mistaking him for someone else. I mean, look, it's also possible that she's just wrong, that she's got a false memory, or that she is a zealot who's making things up. But I'm not gonna play that game. I'm gonna say, look, If she testified under oath, we're going to act under the presumption that her testimony is sound. Therefore, the only conclusion can be that she's wrong or that Kavanaugh is lying. But, like, the problem is, do you say Kavanaugh is lying? Because if you make that assumption, then you could equally make the assumption that Ford is lying. And if we want to believe that they're both doing their best to be honest, then the clear result is that Ford is absolutely mistaken. Plain and simple. So I don't know if they have any other little bits here. Explore the data yourself. Yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm not going to cut out that presidential alert because I want to leave it in because I think it's really funny that while I was recording this video, the presidential alert test went out. And a lot of people have been making jokes about getting text messages from Trump and what they're going to sound like. But there you go. That was my phone blasting that annoying noise, and you got to hear it. There you go. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 4 on the main channel.